talking about technology, like the ring that you have, so then like does it give you data or feedback to you?
So they have a full app and everything like that as well, to where you could see all the data. The three main components they look at is your readiness score, so like how prepared you are for that day, pretty much. Pretty much what you want to do is take a look at that data after you wake up, and just to kind of see where things are. Readiness is one. Sleep is another score, to where seeing how well you slept, to where it'll also tell you like your body temperature, to where if your body temperature starts to increase, you'll start to get sick and all that as well.
What?
Yeah. And then from there, the last one's going to be activity, tracking kind of like your how active you were previous day or that day, to see to kind of let you know, hey, you gotta start standing a bit more. You're just being too stationary throughout the day.
Really?
So yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
But what's the app called, or what's the service called?
Aura.
And it's like subscription based, or?
Yeah, so they pretty much, it's a one-time purchase for a ring. Like their competitors, like Whoop, like a Whoop bracelet. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one.
Yeah, I'm actually into sports, and like some of the athletes like promote the Whoop thing.
Yeah. So Whoop, in my opinion, is a little bit more expensive. It's where you have to pay, I think, $30 to $50 every single month, whereas Aura, it's like $300 or $400. But they do have a subscription thing where it's like $4.99 or $5.99 a month as well to get extra data.
And you own a marketing company, and you're always looking at data sets. And don't you feel though that these companies could manipulate the data or the feedback that they're giving back to you? And I'm not trying to get into like conspiracy theories type, but it's just like asking that question.
In terms of manipulating the data?
Yeah, like for example, telling you that you're gonna get sick, so therefore you kind of believe that you're gonna get sick.
I guess they technically could do that if they wanted to, but it is tracking real-time data, to where like if you want to look at your heart rate, it's not like they're going to lie and say, oh, your heart rate right now is at 150 as if you're doing a brisk walk, versus right now my resting heart rate sitting down is probably going to be towards 70, 80, maybe even up to 90 since I'm caffeinated right now. But that's where it's just like being able to see where the baseline is. That should be able to kind of tell you. And on the marketing side, that's where finding the right company, I would say, is going to be a big key differentiator versus someone that's a little bit more trustworthy, because I've seen it happen as well, and I've experienced it myself as well, to where there are marketing companies out there, and that's where marketing agencies just get a bad rep from that, because skewing the data.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're like aware all the time of what they're trying to do, like the marketing tactics that they're going to use against you, because you are a marketing agent. And so for like, so you know, like I just think about those things. I'm not really like, I don't even like having an Apple Watch, just because I think don't you ever feel like that whenever like you're so used to having your phone already like in your pocket, right? Don't you feel like vibrations sometimes that go on your leg just like randomly, like, and nothing's there, or you don't get no notification?
You check your phone as if you had a notification and there's nothing there.
There's nothing. Yeah. So it's like technology for me. It's like, I'm like, okay, well, why does this happen? Or what is my body doing? It's just like becoming accustomed to, I guess, the technology that I have in my environment all the time. So if I don't want to add on to like, I guess, my stress or anxiety of having an Apple Watch, like I can take, because then I just get like so anxious whenever like a vibration comes through.
That's true. That's why I try to limit like notifications, make sure like if I'm in a meeting, have everything not turned off, but just silence completely so I don't get that. Or like if I'm sleeping, make sure that's all done, or just make sure that within my hours I have restrictions set already, to where I know like if I'm focused or if I'm sleeping or anything like that, it's not affecting my personal life. That's how I try to do it. Obviously, sometimes I have specific notifications come through, as that may be something that is more of a priority that I need to take action on. But the regular ones, such as like phone calls where I'm just being reactive, I try not to worry too much about those.
Okay. So like, for example, obviously since you're in the marketing world, you have to have a huge presence in social media. Like, how do you manage that, like with your personal social media? Like, do you prioritize more the business side of it, less than like the personal at this point in your life?
Yeah, so for me, I definitely don't go or post too much on personal aspects with social media. I try to limit myself on social media entirely to not just like scroll through TikTok. I don't even have TikTok on my phone to where because I know that's my restriction or my way of restricting myself from going through, because I know if I download it, I'll probably end up going through and doing the same thing what the average person does and go through 1 or 2 hours a day through TikTok and just constant news that doesn't really relate or matter or have a big impact on your life. But so personal, don't really do too much on there. On the business side, since I'm more so focused on B2B rather than B2C, it's not as a big importance right now to where that'll be coming later, because the amount of time, resources, and money I would have to invest into the social media side, and same thing for our other B2B companies, is going to be much more higher, or you're going to have to put a lot more time and resources into it compared to doing something that's more so organic towards Google or doing advertisement campaigns on Google or something like that.
And B2B is what exactly? I'm sorry, like I didn't get that part.
Yeah, so B2B is business to business.
Oh, okay.
Any kind of business to business relationship. So me, marketing agency, doing business with a staffing group agency that's business focused as well. That would be B2B, whereas B2C is business to consumer or customer. So that would be like an e-commerce agency or e-commerce company selling products, some sort of whatever product you have, and that business selling directly to the consumer.
And how did you start your Premier Marketing? Like, what did it come from? Because I mean, I kind of looked at your LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is one of those social media platforms that is worth investing time into, and also paying, I guess. Do you have the Pro? Do you pay for the subscription on
the Sales Navigator?
Yeah.
Yep.
So like that's a social media. I think that's beneficial.
Yeah. So that one, like last year, that was probably about 70% of where our clients came from, because we did direct outreach campaigns on there very heavily. So we reached out to new people, connected with them, had a conversation with them, and they then turned into our clients. So LinkedIn is a big B2B platform versus like Facebook or Instagram. That's more so B2C platform.
Yeah, because I feel like maybe on Instagram or like Facebook, you just get a whole bunch of feedback, but not really any type of retention on like a specific customer.
Yeah.
So how did you came about to be Premier Marketing? I mean, if I can know a little bit your background too, like
Sure.
like where it came from, because I saw you were a triathlon athlete too. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in a military family, so I traveled all over. Whenever people ask, "Oh, where were you from?" or "Where are you from?" easy answer I always just give out is just California, San Diego. That's where my parents are right now, and that's where I do go back a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And the weather's great, so can't complain with that.
Okay.
But yeah, I was born there, traveled all over, lived in Hawaii, Japan, and California for the most part of my life, probably about 7 years in each of those. And then ended up coming to Queens here in Charlotte, transferred over here to join the triathlon program. I had some triathlon background because I did triathlons for about 7-8 years in Hawaii and Japan. And then from there, I first went to college for track and field, but then got a little tired of it. Didn't like the school or program as much as I'd like. With the coach ended up leaving after my second year there, so that's where I started searching up some of the best triathlon programs in the country, and it was either going to be here in Charlotte or it was going to be Colorado or California. I was living in Virginia at the time. My parents were in Japan. I was going to have to do a cross-country trip myself in my tiny car, so I was like, I don't want to do that. So ended up coming here, did a little visit, saw the team, didn't even know Charlotte existed at that time. So
How long was that ago then?
that was back in 2018.
Okay.
For real, it's so very recent then
Yeah.
you moved down here.
Yeah, so that's 5 years ago now. Yeah.
And why did you keep on chasing the triathlon part? Like what was so engaging about it? Like, because I think as an athlete you kind of have to make it like for you to continue doing that, it has to like kind of do something for you. What did it do for you?
I look at it to where it did. I would say it shaped a lot of my life to where that's where like a lot of my discipline and motivation kind of comes from, is being just a former athlete. That's why now I call myself retired, as I haven't swam or biked in a long time. I still run, but yeah, not too much on the swim or the bike portion. But it was a sport I liked because there's obviously a variety. It's swimming, biking, and running. It's very, very tough to do it, and the reason why I don't do it right now is because it's a big time consumption. You need to dedicate a lot of time, or I would want to dedicate a lot of time, because if I go back into triathlons, which I may, I want to be able to win when I do the races. I don't want to just go and just win the
like the participation.
Exactly.
You're gonna get the participation ribbon.
Yeah, so I don't want that. If I do something, I want to be at the top. I want to be winning, and so I want to be able to have the time to dedicate. And like I think in my peak in my collegiate career, I was putting in right under 30 hours a week of just training across swimming, biking, running, and like just strength training, whatever else. So
and then you'd have to fit in your school schedule. Did you work too?
No, I did not. Well, actually, yeah, I did do part-time work. That's where marketing, I was first introduced to it, getting back into that side of things, because I was a Red Bull ambassador, student ambassador. So if you've ever seen the Mini Coopers with a big can sticking out of it, I was one of those guys with a big Red Bull backpack driving around in the Mini Cooper.
But what's the purpose of Red Bull doing that?
So pretty much we gave out probably about 500 free Red Bull cans, somewhere between 300 to 500 free Red Bull cans every time we did a shift, every time we worked, where it's all it is. Obviously their cost per can is cents, not even dollars, to where it costs them a very low amount to be able to produce one Red Bull can or even a pack of it. So they give those out for free, more so for brand awareness and brand recognition, to where their marketing department has obviously looked into how much it costs them to be giving out this many free cans all across not just the country, but they do this all over internationally as well, as they're a huge international company. But everyone knows a Red Bull, and Red Bull's at the top of the list when you think of energy drinks. It's Red Bull, maybe Monster's up there.
It's changed, I think.
Yeah,
it's changed, but that's why I think they've also decreased it to where I don't think they're doing it as much. I don't follow that heavily on it, but from what I heard, they don't do much of that kind of thing anymore.
Okay, because I saw that I guess like as a company they made the strategy to move towards like new flavors and stuff like that. Like that hadn't happened for a long time. So the purpose of that was to like, I guess, just get their name out there, and the I guess the reward that they would get is kind of like just awareness of the brand.
I would say like kind of like what you said with the new flavors. We did a lot of it when new flavors, I think like the winter peach or something like that came out. We promoted that quite a bit. And that was so that once we gave that free can out, someone tastes it. It tasted really good. And from there, they'd be like, okay, I could replace this with caffeine, or I mean, I could use this compared to coffee, because it has, and that's where we try to say, hey, this is the benefit factor. It has B12, whereas coffee doesn't have that, or it has this stuff, and coffee or whatever you currently drink doesn't have that, and this could replace your caffeine consumption. Or if you're a gym user, or if you go to the gym, you could use this instead. So
as a former athlete, is Red Bull like a good source of energy, you would say?
I wouldn't say that it's the best to constantly drink. I would say that like probably not.
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah. And what did Red Bull? You said since that was like your first introduction to marketing, what did you get from that, or like what did you start seeing that inspired you to create what is now Premier Marketing?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that that was like the biggest shift towards the premier marketing side. That was just introductory into marketing
Oh,
because
okay.
I graduated at Queens with a exercise sports science, so nothing relating to marketing at all, no
Really?
marketing background or anything like that. To where, and this is a discussion I had with a business partner of mine just yesterday, actually, to where, and this is I guess a question to you guys. Have you ever been asked about any kind of diploma, whether it's a high school diploma, college diploma, or any kind of certifications or like specialties you have? Like, if you ever had a job interview or anything like that, did they ever ask for that physical piece of paper or copy of it?
The way that I think everything is shifting, we're whenever I guess I meet new clients, they just kind of like base it off like who I am as a person. Like for example, the type of language I'm using, the way, the attitude that I have. Just I think the first presentation of who I am is what's the face value, I guess, FaceTime of who you are is worth it more than whatever any sheet can say.
Right. It's like it's all about your personal values, your core values, and it's also I would say on more so your experience to where they will want to see like what have you done for other companies or other people similar to them as well, to where you don't have to have at this point like I college was a great time, but if I think about it, it's like I could have skipped that 4 year timeline and not paid tens of thousands of dollars for college, and same thing with everyone else, to where you don't really need to go to college. Yeah, you learn a lot of other basic skills and knowledge out of it, but it's not a need or requirement the way we kind of look at it, or that's my perspective on it at this point.
Um, with you saying that, I kind of bring up the fact that I feel like during, like, let's say after high school, you really don't know what to do. So it's kind of like college is a way to orient you to maybe
You're peer pressured into it. It's like if you don't go to college, you're that one kid that doesn't have his life figured out or anything like that. And that's exactly
true.
how I felt, to where everyone else did. My girlfriend at that time was the one who kind of pressured me into going to college because she was going to a very prestigious college, William and Mary at the time, and wanted me to go to college as well. And I was just like, I think I applied to like 3 or 4. I got into 3 or 4 of them, and kind of just chose it based on the coach. I was more so going there for sports. I wasn't really even looking to, that's why I transferred, because they didn't have a good science program. I was a biology major at first, which I did not need to do. And then I switched to exercise sports science or kinesiology.
but though I feel like that's exactly what like once you get into college, you still kind of like keep on questioning, even though like I think that's like, okay, go to college, you still keep on questioning it, like biology, fitness, coaching, and then to where like at the end sometimes you can't even find yourself, or you're not satisfied with everything that you've learned. Like that's I'm like, college should have a guarantee at least if I'm gonna invest into it that much. But
Yeah.
it, you were saying?
No, I was just saying, yeah, it is just crazy to where that was kind of the point I was making, to where you're paying tens of thousands of dollars for a piece of paper that never gets asked about.
Oh yeah, the diploma part. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And so therefore then, like, what did you feel then after you did, like, what'd you do after college then? Like, well, did you go into like any fitness space or?
So the whole plan of me getting my kinesiology or exercise sports science degree was to go into PT school, and that's where I was about to go and apply, or I was going through the application process. I got like about 100 or 150 hours of shadowing hours in as well, to where like I was fully committed to do that, and I was fully committed from the beginning. College, that's what I wanted to do, is go into physical therapy and become a physical therapist. That's when things shifted because of COVID, to where COVID shifted a lot of people's lives, and I think that it was I look at it from a positive perspective in my life, to where it shifted to make me a business owner, or have my own agency now and have my own career path to be able to do that. So I thank COVID for that, because I always knew that And kind of going back to your original question from a while back, asking like how I started up Premier Marketing and the kind of the background behind it, is that when I think it was my sophomore year of college, I was still living in Virginia. Went back to Japan during that time over the summer because that's where my parents were. And then I had my WSI, which is a swim certification program to where I could teach people how to swim.
And it works on an international level?
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think so. Don't quote me on that though.
Okay.
So I had that, and the base that my dad was at, they didn't have any swim instructors there. They had lots of obviously kids there with their families and all that. So I was like, okay, that's a perfect opportunity for me. Try to get contracted through the base. They took forever, so I just kind of took things into my own hands, talked to the manager of that gym or pool, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. You could just do it. Because by the time they were going to contract me, it was going to be pretty much end of summer, and I would have had to go back to college.
Okay.
So I did that, and that's when I got my first taste of business. Obviously, I didn't have my own LLC. I was still like 17, 18. No, I was probably like, 18, 19 in college, sophomore. But that was my first taste of like technically owning my own business to where I was making my own income. I was making like, at that time, at 18, 19, that was like good money I was making there.
Yeah, I bet. And then
I had a full schedule within 2 weeks of starting it to where I was working from, I think I worked out in the morning. So I started working at 9 a.m. at the pool, doing swim lessons all the way till like 6 p.m. And I had a 1 hour lunch break in between that time. And so I had a full packed schedule, teaching as young as, I want to say I did 3 or 4 year olds at the youngest, and then all the way up to like 50s, 60s. So a wide range there. Mostly kids, but there were a few adults as well that just didn't know how to swim.
Mm-hmm. And you said it was in Japan. Like, was there a language barrier there, or do kids in Japan know how to, or taught English?
So this was on a military base, so everyone spoke English. But I'm half Japanese, so I speak fluently. So
really?
I could speak both English and Japanese, so that wasn't an issue for me. But it was on a military base, so everyone spoke English.
Oh, okay. But I'm always amazed at like for example, we don't see it at that age, but literally that's the entrepreneurial like mindset that is just like evolving, like ever evolving. I think even I can dare to say even till now, like it still keeps on evolving. Like that was just like a little taste, but not everybody's capable of that, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. But that's when I knew, like, I didn't know what I was going to get into business for. I even thought about doing that, bringing that stateside and like trying to get contracted through a pool and make a deal to where they get like 20% of the revenue that I bring in, or so that I could use their pool, whatever. But that's where I already started thinking. That's where I was like, all right, I know I'm going to own something. I know I'm going to have my own business. I don't know when, I don't know what it is, but that's when I was like, I know I'm going to have something. COVID, I think that just excelled that timeline to where it gave me a break to where, because the world shut down, to where that was like, I was able to take a breather, because that's right when I graduated as well. Perfect timing to where the workforce was obviously the worst at that point.
Yeah.
No one was hiring and all that as well. But that gave me a break to kind of step back, take a look at things, take things into perspective and say, what can I do, or what do I want to do? And that's where I started off with a friend of mine in college. We started our e-commerce business. I had 3 e-commerce stores. One started off in the gym. The other one was just some random products that we sold every time there was like a hot product, such as like fidget spinners. Like we would just try to find what that next hot item was. And then the third business was women's fashion. I don't know why, but that one actually was the best one out of them.
Okay.
So just because I was like, who buys a lot of products? Women. What do they buy? Clothing, makeup, all that kind of stuff. So, and I didn't want to do makeup, as that's like just skin products and you got to get like approvals because of that. So I just did clothing, and that ended up being pretty good there. But that's when the shift happened. I did that. That's when I knew I wanted to do kind of digital, because obviously I could do that from anywhere in the world, be able to work from just a laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's where I knew I wanted to kind of stay around that. that's where I started getting contracted through marketing agencies, because that's where the woman's e-commerce store started to take a little bit of traction, to where I needed some marketing at that time. That's where my marketing knowledge was still very, very limited. I didn't know less than half of what I know now, to where I contracted a few other marketing agencies to help me grow that business. But that's where, like, it was bad. Like, they took advantage of me, and that's where I saw things that I could do better. And that's where I started taking things into my own hands. I learned from some of the best, brought in some of the best mentors, and went through courses, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I would call my certification into marketing, or my beginning into marketing, is at that point.
Okay.
And then that's when I started my own marketing agency at that point, because I saw a shift to where, hey, I did this for myself. Now I could look at the process I went through the marketing agencies and the advantages they took of me, and then from there create my own agency, took some of the goods, because obviously they had some goods in their stuff, but take some of the goods and look at the bads and make those bads into goods to have a good experience with my clients that I bring on for the marketing side.
And what were some of the disadvantages, or like the way, or what were some of that, like how did they take advantage of you? Like what did you see like constantly?
Yeah, so a good one that you brought up as well earlier is communication. That's like one of my core values, I think, is just communication, to where you said, how many agencies did you contact?
I contacted, and this is a real story, because like just to explain it to everyone, this is exactly how we met. I was looking for a marketing agency for my staffing company here local in Charlotte. And the first, obviously, tool that I used was Google. I just looked up local marketing agencies near me, and I think like 7 or 8 popped up. And, you know, we tend to really rely on Google for reliable services. So, Premier Marketing, I think, was like 4th on the chart that day, and like if you could explain it later, I think kind of like how that works. But I think Premier Marketing was the 4th one. But you weren't the first that I contacted. You were probably like one of the last ones that I contacted. I went through, and whenever I'm gonna email someone or call someone, I'm really persistent, like to where I don't think as a customer I should do that, but I try to be really clear on like what I want. So that you don't waste your time. I don't waste my time either. I emailed 7 different companies, both equally professional, like wrote up an email and also gave them a call. I think on the second day or the same day, I received a response from you. And till this day, I don't receive a response from the other 6 that I contacted. So communication, I was like, how can you guys be on top of the charts on Google and not be reliable like that? I was just so impressed by that.
Exactly. So like I said, that's a big part, and that's what we do both on the front facing side, obviously, in terms of communicating back with you, to where initially you receive the automations right away, to where so that you know that we're going to get to you, because we may not have a real human being contacting you right away, or we may not answer right away, but we will, so that you're aware that we will get back to you at some point. And then from there, I think for you personally, if I remember correctly, you went through the automations and you scheduled a call right away, so there was no need for us to call you back or anything, because you were already on our schedule. But from there, that's where, if not, we would then proactively reach out to you and try to schedule a time either with myself or someone else to then get you on the books and discuss to see if we're going to be a good fit and see if we're going to be able to work with you. So that's our process there. That's the front facing communication. And then the other side of the communication that wasn't so good from my previous experience was once you do become, because that's where a lot of agencies do well on the front facing communication, but once you become a client, you never hear back from them. So that's where, again, like that's why we have like that project management tool, to where we keep track, we make sure we over communicate with you, and we make sure that we're kind of getting back to you very, very quickly, to where if you, obviously during business hours, to where if you are contacting us within, like I said, business hours, 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever, during that time, we'll pretty much be able to respond back to you within an hour or two. And then obviously if it's outside those hours, it's just going to be the very next business day.
And for you, like leading your team and leading everything, was it easy at first to find the right individuals for your team, or did you kind of have what was the structure that you first had into how it is now?
Yeah, so like any other business or startup, like at first it was just me managing everything and doing all the work to where that's where you get into the spring where you bring in a lot of clients or you do a lot of lead generation, and then from there now you got to do all deliverables or the fulfillment side of things, so you're not doing any lead generation. Then the next month you're like, oh shoot, I need a whole new fresh set of leads, so you keep going back and forth with that. And then after that, that's where you go more so into the now I need people to help me out. My first process, like after that, I took care of the fulfillment. I did not want to handle the fulfillment myself and do all that, because I was able to do more so the lead generation and the sales side of things. I look at it in 3 different bubbles. There's marketing, which is the first part. There's then there's little other bubbles inside of each of these, such as lead gen or just different formats of marketing. But the big 3 ones I look at it is marketing, sales, and fulfillment. So I had the marketing and sales covered, and I wanted just the fulfillment bubble to be done by someone better than me, because I would say my skill set wasn't so good at whether it's web design, SEO, or whatever.
Okay.
I'm good at the strategy portion. I'm not good at the fulfillment portion. So that's the first thing I found was help to get that fulfillment side taken care of.
Was the guy that you found at first like a good candidate? Was that your guy, or did you kind of had to scroll through?
Yeah, so at first I went through a few to where it wasn't good, and ended up at first going through and doing outsourced work to white label companies here in the US. I didn't want to do overseas or anything like that. So I ended up finding a lot of white label partners where I trusted. I tested them out, made sure that they're good before bringing them on with a client. But that's where I started off, because that's a lot easier and scalable to be able to do that, or else you may have to, because bringing on a team member obviously costs. If you don't have a lot of revenue at first, you may not be able to afford them or that skill set.
What is that term, white label? Because I kind of lost you on that one.
Okay, so white label, typically it's like a white label agency or something like that, to where they do all the fulfillment work for you, but they don't put their name on it. Like they have their own agency, their own brand and everything. So let's just call it ABC Company is a white label company. Their logo and their business name is ABC Company, but they do the work for Premier Marketing, but Premier Marketing gets all the credit for all that work. I just pay them a small amount. They have a full team, whether it's design, development, SEO, whatever, to do all that work, because they have a full team to do that. And they partner with agencies that don't have that internal team structure quite yet.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of a way of like offering tools to like startups. Did that become expensive quick, or did that benefit you for a while? Because I mean, now you have in-house, right?
Yeah, now it is in-house. And I would say the biggest shift between white label and in-house is the fact that, one, obviously the communication is going to be your team members to them, because typically white label agencies don't do any communication to you. You have to then take whatever work they do, and then you're kind of the middleman communicating that to the client. If the client asks for this, you have to then go back to them, ask for a revision or whatever else, whatnot, to get done. So it's a little bit of more time consuming. They may not always do the best quality work as well, so that's the other issue you may run into. So it's a lot of variables there with a white label agency, which is why you need to make sure that whoever you find is good, but it's not. It's a hopefully temporary solution, but there are agencies that do that I've seen where it's not temporary. It's part of their business model.
Yeah, because I wasn't even aware that those type of things existed. I think like just by networking with you, I've learned a lot of things that I'm like, okay, I didn't even know there were this options. And even doing this podcast, I feel like you explaining that to someone, it's like, like, oh, they're like, oh, maybe I could look into that. But so then how did you make that shift to find the in-person, like as you said, you were kind of like, you had never owned like a real business. Like, how did you interview your candidates?
I got real lucky. So at one point, he was a good buddy of mine, and we've had our differences now, but he introduced me to a guy he met here in Charlotte who was a designer. He had him working for him at first. It was like full-time, then it became part-time, so he was kind of screwing him over with his like personal income, because obviously like you can't have someone working full-time for you, then you take him back to part-time, and then you say, hey, I need you full-time again, to where he was like doing DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever on the side to just be able to fulfill his personal needs and pay the bills and whatnot. But he was really talented. That's where I told him, hey, like, this is not right for them to be doing this kind of stuff for you. So I slowly started bringing him on, just kind of testing him out, had him do some of our things with our websites, and say, hey, like, do this, do that, to kind of just test his skill set out and see if like that worked. So he wasn't an employee of mine, but he became a like pretty much full-time contract worker for me, and exclusively working for me. He had his own business where I was kind of helping him out on the side as well in return. So that was kind of our more so mutual partnership, to where he was wanting to grow his own agency, just didn't know the steps. I got him out of that hurdle with the other guy as well, to where he was just kind of, like I said, screwing him over there. And then from there, like, that's where our relationship really built a lot. And he helped me redesign my Premier Marketing branding logo and everything there as well.
Okay.
As that wasn't the original one there. That's not where I started.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the one that you currently have looks really clean.
Yeah. So that, I give credit to him on that one. We went through dozens and dozens of iterations on that, with just to get the perfect P in place, even though it looks so simple.
Yeah.
We went through so many, because I knew I wanted something that was like just easy to look at, clean, and just like modern, to where it's not, and if I'm doing a brand change, I want to get it right and not have to do it. Maybe I might look at doing a change in 5 or 10 years, but nothing anytime soon. So I wanted to make sure that we got it right, and it took like 2 months, I think, just on the rebranding of Premier Marketing, and going through that, just because of how many iterations we went.
And with you bringing on, like, that was, I guess, the first step that you took to hiring someone for the website. Like, as a leader, what do you use on a day-to-day to kind of like make your team be more creative, or like initiate that? Because obviously you have to like gain more like knowledge every day for you to become a better leader. Like, how do you manage that? Like, keep being a leader for your team?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's why the relationship between him and I worked out really well, because he took charge of his aspects, and that's what I expected of him as well, to saying, hey, like, I always gave him, I love softwares. That's a big part of what maybe I get too much into, kind of like on the tech side, where I get a lot of different like new upcoming softwares to utilize to help our process or to make things more efficient. So in terms of management, we've gone through 2 or 3 different communication tools, similar to like Slack's a big one. There's another one called Twist. There's Missive. So that's like our main internal communication channel that we utilize. And then we've got the project management channel as well, or tool, to be able to manage all sorts of different projects here and there. But as far as like his tools, such as like Figma, Adobe, whatever, for the design or development process, he knew exactly what he needs. I always brought in, hey, what do you think about this tool we're utilizing, and kind of like consulted with him on what would be best for the outcome we're looking for. But I always made sure that he had all the necessary tools, and I was just covering all those expenses to make sure we had all the best tools that he needed to produce the best result or design.
Okay, yeah, because I see that tendency in our company too, to where like if I hire someone, I expect them to do their job, right? Like, but you don't always find individuals that, like, for example, I can tell, I can give you a piece of paper and say draw a house, and like, but you'll draw something either basic or draw something with like your personality, your creativeness, and I think that finding those individuals with, I guess, their own initiative is really hard.
That's what I was just about to say. I was about to say that one word that stands out for someone that will do that is initiative. Someone who takes initiative versus someone who doesn't is a huge differentiator, to where someone who does take initiative, they're going to proactively be looking for different solutions to make things better or make things more efficient. Whereas someone who doesn't, they're just going to do the bare minimum and not really help you progress the business or that whatever specific team or task that they're working on.
Yeah, like I feel like that stalls a lot of companies, and even till now it's kind of like people don't have that initiative of let's say like studying or stuff like that. Like, because it's like, just take it like you went out and you were purposeful in finding your mentors. Like, you didn't know anything about marketing, but yet you still wanted to get out there some type of way. So for you go out, look for these mentors. Like, what did you did your mentors only teach you about marketing, or did they teach you like almost about philosophy, also about life? Because I feel like that also goes hand in hand with the business aspect of it, and it can't be overlooked.
100%. So that's where you got to find the right mentors as well. Same things with those, where you're not just paying a mentor and they're just doing, again, the bare minimum, and that's where just research and just practice on finding the right people is going to take time. So like a good example I like to give out, and this is where my business shifted as well, and my personal development, career, all that stuff, where I went through a program. I think I paid $10,000 or $12,000 for this 90-day program. Not 90-day, it was a 6-month program, and their promises or their guarantees were, we're going to help you take your agency from here to here and be able to like 10x it, and their whole thing was helping you with lead gen, helping you with the sales. They bring in a sales representative to do the sales for you.
Yeah.
And then you should have the fulfillment already covered to where you have that, but they'll pretty much be supplying you with consistent leads to where like you should be 10xing your business easily within the first 90 days. And by 6 months, we're looking at next business development stages. Went through that. Terrible experience. I got nothing, or I got one thing out of it, I'd say. From the business side or for my agency side, no value on that. From a personal standpoint, the one thing I did get, like I said, was my now business partner. At first, he was a mentor of mine. And so he is the one where he saw I young kid going through all this, got completely screwed over by this program, and he just did genuinely want to help me out. He said, hey, I've never done like any kind of mentorship. I have trained 2 other people prior to you, and they are now both multimillionaires with their I don't think they had specifically marketing agencies, but whatever companies they had, they're now multimillionaires or doing very well at this point now.
Yeah.
So let's give it a try with you. Didn't charge me anything, so that's how I knew it was more so genuine, because he didn't really ask for anything in return, obviously, where he was sharing his knowledge and time with me. So greatly appreciated that. We went through that, and he helped me out, made some really good connections, introductions, to where that's where I started up Premier Connect, my second business, in the LinkedIn lead generation side of things. And that's where that started to take off, and that went really well as well, and also helped me out with some aspects of Premier marketing. But like I said, that's where things shifted, and that's where I actually got positive outcome. Nothing from what the course or program promised me, but
Yeah.
I made a good connection out of it, and now we're working on a business together, a new business venture together, and that's why now he's a business partner of mine, as now he's seen me. This was a couple years ago at this point now, but now he's seen me grow my agency and my second business as well, to where now he sees me as an operations person and wants my help for this new venture together.
Do you feel like you've grown a lot in the past 2 years, like in knowledge? Is it because you network a lot? Is it because you read a lot? Is it because I see that you post constantly on LinkedIn, I guess, studies and stuff like that. Do you study on a day-to-day basis?
I would say yes to all the above in terms of knowledge and everything. Like, I would say within the past 2-3 years, that's where I've grown personally.
Yeah.
Most compared to any other period in my life. From just a mental standpoint, I would say, and knowledge standpoint, to where, like, even in college, like, to be honest, I didn't take college that seriously, or
I don't think anyone does.
I goofed around. I took it for granted, and now I look back, I'm like, I could have done this better, that better, but it is what it is at this point. But yeah, to answer your question, I think, yeah, I have gained both on the knowledge side from, I guess, the things I still go through, and that's where I'm always learning constantly, because especially in the marketing world, it's always ever growing and ever shifting. So always going through different programs, always either reading or going through audiobooks, listening to different podcasts and whatnot as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am constantly learning.
Yeah, because like for me, even like with, I've just recently started networking, and I feel like it's really something fulfilling, and I'm always re-energized. The other day you said how like an introvert and an extrovert is what did you say?
Yeah, so it's a good way to figure out how you're if you don't know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, like, think of it as like when you wake up in the beginning of the day, you either, if you're an introvert, you start off with like 5 tokens. Every time you speak to someone, you end up losing a token. By the end of the day, you're depleted, you're exhausted, and you might just want to just stay at home and just relax, watch a show, watch a movie, whatever it is. Whereas you're an extrovert, you start off with 0 tokens in the day, at the beginning of the day, but every time you speak to someone or engage with someone, you get tokens. Like, that's what fuels you. That's the difference between introvert, extrovert. But it's like things like this, to where even if you are an introvert, things like this, it's not like taking a token away, to where it's still like these kind of conversations are still great, versus like something like what I still get depleted on is like, because I still do sales calls. So sales calls deplete me constantly, to where I enjoy them, but it's not something I want to do long term, and it is something where I'm like, I do get kind of tired throughout the day every time I do one.
And that's, I think, a great thing that we can transition to in sales. The other day I was like, I asked this mentor of mine, I was like, how can I get better on sales? Or I was like, should I hire someone to do my sales? And I explained, and he didn't, I guess he didn't say it in a bad way, but he's like, how do you expect someone to do something you're not willing to do? Just ask yourself that question. And he said that, like, I was like, ouch. I was like, but I looked into that, and I was like, he's right. Like, how and he also followed it up with a question. He's like, that's what a leader does. He's like, how do you expect to be a leader if you're not doing it yourself and you're putting yourself in front of these clients? So, like, with exactly what you just said, I'm an introvert, definitely. I feel like I've had during high school, or during even like my college days, a lot of the conversations that I had depleted me, but I feel because they didn't add value to my life. Because when I do actually start talking with someone that's adding value, I actually get like re-energized, or like even inspired after like we could be having a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour conversation.
It's like your close friends. It's like the ones that are like in your inner circle are the ones that like you could still talk to without it depleting, where you do still feel energized and you could go on and on and on and have that conversation. But the ones that are like, it might be shallow, or it might be sales call, like we said earlier, those are the ones that are more so on the depleting side.
Yeah. And those type of calls, the sales too, like I'm like, dude, I'm right now, I'm like on a journey to like read every sales book that I can this year, to like get myself out there and kind of get comfortable with it.
Yeah, so on the sales side, I went through the same thing as well. I ended up hiring a sales coach I met through like the co-working space.
Okay.
And so she helped me out. I did some sort of barter agreement with her where we're utilizing the Premier Connect lead gen software for her and her business to produce leads for her for more clients, and then in return we started off like a weekly sales coaching, and then from there we did bi-weekly to kind of help me out with my sales process, and then from there figure out the wireframe, because like you said, when you bring in a sales associate, like they're going to have the sales skill set, but you still have to provide them the wireframe. That's also something I'm going through right now, is creating wireframes as a sales team is something I'm trying to implement next, is for Premier Marketing, so that I'm not having to do all of that stuff as well. But you need to create the wireframe, so that's why you need to be able to do the sales yourself first.
By the wireframe, you like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so that's why I say wireframe rather than script, because a lot of people, you'll see like, hey, use this sales script for your sales process next time to close X amount of deals and whatnot.
Okay.
But and this is something I had to learn as well, because when I first started doing it, I was told, and this was again through that program that was not good, where they gave me a sales script and I was literally reading word for word off of it. And that is not good at all, to where a wireframe shows you the points you want to make and maybe the questions you want to highlight on, but you don't have to read it word for word, because every sales call goes a little bit different or has a different vibe or tonality to it, to where you want to keep that consistent. You don't want to go through and ask a random question because it's question number 4 and that's the next one up. Instead, you may want to shift it and go into something else because you're on a good rhythm with that prospect, to then just build a little bit of a connection.
Oh, okay. So the wireframe is like the guide to...
It's a guide. It's not something you read word for word like a script would be.
And that's interesting how it's shifted. Like, do you still get mentored by Fadi?
Yeah, we're still I would say we're more so like partners at this point now.
Okay, because from our conversation, you introduced me to him. He said something very interesting. He's like, work on your relationships. He's like, on your business relationships. And from that sentence, I got, like, for example, just like you said, that sometimes whenever you connect with other business owners, they don't necessarily want the money, but if they can see you as a tool, the exchange doesn't always have to be cash or a payment. It could be an exchange of me doing a service and you offering me a service. And that's interesting, because you don't ever get to that unless you first work on the relationship. Or just like you said, you can't have a script because you don't create any type of connection.
Yeah. My sales journey, my first year, and this is where I did a ton of calls. I was doing minimum 5 to sometimes even up to 8 calls per day, where I called them discovery calls, where it's just a quick 30-minute introductory call. Sometimes it went up to an hour, but I just blocked off an hour time block in case it did take up that long. But during that time, like I said, I did at least 100 discovery calls. This isn't including any strategy calls, which is what I call my next call if they're more interested in learning about us and working with us. But that's where I did 100 discovery calls per month, 5 per day, 5 days a week to get 25, 4 weeks in a month to get to 100 discovery calls. And that's how I met a lot of the people who I have a good relationship with, such as Fadi. Like, I met him straight off of LinkedIn through Premier Connect software. We connected. At first, it was an automation message that went out there, and he engaged. And then that's where our team member, it wasn't even me, but my team member handles my LinkedIn, does the posting and all that as well. But that's where they took over, started the conversation that we have with our wireframe. And then from there, he scheduled a call with me. And then that's where I did that, hopped on that discovery call, to where I shared a lot of value with him. And that's what he says was the biggest differentiator versus my LinkedIn script and then my discovery sales process, was the fact that I shared a lot of value, to where I wasn't salesy. I wasn't like super direct and trying to sell him right off the bat. And that was the biggest differentiator, was that we did it that way, where it was a soft process. And I think I had to have like, he was definitely a lot longer in terms of how many times I had a conversation with him, and that's okay. But obviously it's a great relationship now, to where I'm really glad and grateful I did that. To where I think we had 4 or 5 1 hour long calls before he ended up like committing or saying like, yeah, I want to do this. But now he's a good, like I said, partner to where he brings a lot of business to me, because we just work really great hand in hand.
Yeah, it's weird though, like, cause like I feel like right now people aren't looking necessarily for a service, because I mean you can look up a service, but they're more looking for a connection they can make with a person that can offer them value, just exactly like you said.
Yeah.
And but even with you making so many calls, I think you were just really purposeful. I feel like a lot of people just do wishful thinking, like, oh yeah, I hope to make $1 million in whenever 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I heard something recently where they explained that thing. It's like people nowadays are doing like affirmations and looking in the mirror in the beginning of the morning and saying, I am great, I am whatever, and doing like affirmations, but then not taking any actions on it. It's like that's like, affirmations are great, don't get me wrong, but by just doing that is not going to get you anywhere, whereas you actually implementing those actions and taking it and writing it down and then making sure that you're progressing it week over week or day over day does a lot more than just looking in the mirror and saying it.
Dude, something that I closeted for a long time, it was like I think like 2 years or the past 2 years I've been trying to read books, but I never finish them. Like I'll get to like, it's a 300-page book, I'll get to page 150. And this year I was like, okay, I need to stop making so many damn affirmations. And okay, how long is this book? Is this book 300 pages? Okay, if it's 300 pages, I'm going to read 30 pages per day. So that means in 10 days by this date, I'll have to finish it. And I've gotten across 2 books this year because of the plan and the action that I've taken. And I'm like, well, it's not surprising. Like, you know how, like, I saw a meme the other day. It's like, if you put the work in, you actually get results. Like,
that was like a shocked face.
Yeah, like the more you know.
Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that. And like I think I've had to look a lot into myself too.
I say another big thing that people don't do well is just consistency. Like, it's like, this isn't any new knowledge, but what was it? Another motivational like video. I like watching a lot of motivational videos and stuff like that for myself, where it's like the video goes like, I've never seen someone fail from like whatever goal it is or whatever you're trying to achieve. It was like, I've never seen someone not be successful or not get that done over the course of whether it's a month, a year, 2 years, but never been able to achieve their goal if they do it every single day on a consistent basis, or do something progressively by taking one step forward closer to achieve that. It's like, you could do like it, you really can achieve what your goals are if you actually do it on a consistent basis. Like, the consistency is where it really matters, by doing and practicing what you preach rather than just saying it.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand that these days. It's kind of like, but also I think we're so bombarded, like even with e-commerce, mentors and stuff like that. Obviously, I feel like some people do want to do it, but they get also the illusion that it's like, I've lost this money, I kind of don't want to do it no more and stuff like that. But leading to our last question, and because I think we're almost closing out to an hour, or no?
Yeah, we are.
Do you think AI is gonna take out marketing, or how do you see that? Like with, because obviously Chat GPT exists these days. It's just so amazing how you can put some words in and now you can generate a photo out of nothingness, or even a website. You kind of like just direct it. So therefore, I'm like, I asked myself this question. I'm like, so where does this stop? Because then we're not gonna need a person to do it for us. Like, so, but that doesn't stop there though. Like, if a person though studies and like becomes better, can he be AI? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so it's definitely a good conversation, and it could go in many different directions, obviously, with that. And I love the AI. I mean, AI's been out there. It's just with ChatGPT, that's where it just took off because they hit 1 million users in 5 days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But like with ChatGPT, for example, the limitation with that right now is that it's only able to take the data, what was it, since 2021 or something like that, where all the data, whatever question you ask, it looks at all the data up until 2021 or whatever that timeline is. It doesn't look at any data that's recent, such as a day ago or a week ago, a month ago, or anything like that. So it's using old data there to where it doesn't have any recent data set points there. And then the other factors I would say with AI is that, again, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with tech, it's a tool in your shed box. It's same thing like if you're thinking of construction, to where any kind of tool you use to build a house, build a roof, whatever it is, it's just a tool. I don't think it's gonna, I mean, yes, it will help us to make things more efficient, to do things faster, but it's only a tool. I don't see it as a replacement to the workforce or a job per se. It's just a tool to be able to utilize, because it's got its limitations still, to where maybe in 5 years when it shifts to GPT 12.0 or whatever it is, then that may be a different topic, or the answer may be different at that point to where it's super advanced. But at this point, like for example, this is something in the marketing world that not too many people realize, because there's so many videos ever since AI was a huge hit, was that on the SEO side, a lot of people are creating videos around, hey, you don't have to hire a SEO agency, marketing agency to do your SEO, and you could just ask ChatGPT whatever topics you want to put, or even create the topics for you in whatever industry you're in, create the topics, create the blog posts and everything. However, what they don't know or what they don't share is that content that they create, even though it's a good piece of content, don't get me wrong, but it's watermarked is what it's called, to where Google, whether it's their algorithm or backend, Google's able to see that it's done by AI. Google does not like AI content. It will actually flag it, or it will not be beneficial to you as what SEO's purpose is. It will be more detrimental to you rather than helpful. So that's where it's going to be watermarked, and you could see that it's written, or Google could see it's written by AI rather than a real human. So that's why the good agencies are still saying that all our content is original, which is a big part, and human written rather than AI written.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I didn't know. Well, I kind of looked at chat, because I've used ChatGPT, and it's a pretty, but I use it more like a teacher.
Yeah.
Kind of like it gives me better answers than me scrolling through Google like, hey, what are the best sales books, and it'll give me like top 10.
Oh yeah, it's great on that. That's where like I said, it makes things more efficient. That probably would have taken you an hour, 2 hours worth of research to find some of the best books out there, or at least to start that process. Yeah. Same thing, like I was testing it out. I was like, hey, I just like when I first was playing around with ChatGPT, I was like, create me, and you could get very specific as well, and it's really great to where it's like, create me a workout plan for 7 days with targeting these muscle groups, along with a dietary plan for after the workout, and how much to consume for a body weight of 150 pounds for a male athlete. And then it did that exact thing. It wrote the workout and everything in a few seconds. And so that's why it's like really cool, and it's really great to be able to do all that and do that, because that would have taken me 4 or 5 hours to create that kind of workout plan and all that stuff there. So that's where I said, like, going back, it makes things a lot more efficient.
And with you saying just at the watermark, I always imagine, I was like, they should watermark this, because like any student can also create an essay just out of anything. Like somehow I think schools have to watermark this. Like it's gonna be impossible, but that makes it a lot less grim than towards the future for marketing. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and like I said, I think maybe we do another episode where we get specific, but I think this one we just want to get to know you, kind of where Premier Marketing came from, and maybe the next episode is like where it's going, what it's doing, and kind of like what type of customers you also aim for. And I really appreciate your time, Jarell, and I think we're gonna just log it off, right?
Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
No, that's it. I think that covers most of the basis there.
How'd you enjoy the podcast?
It was good. I appreciate you bringing me along. First experience, so did enjoy it.
Okay, perfect then. All right, guys, check us out. Like, comment, subscribe, and link in the description to if you want to network with Jarell or need any type of marketing service. I'll put it down in the description below. Thank you.
Thank you.